Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is DRH Elucidations here, and today we're going to have a tutorial on how to make a simple guessing game using Xcode. Now, to get started, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to navigate to the App Store here. And once we have it launched, we're going to search for Xcode here. And of course, we already have it downloaded here, but if you don't, it'll give you the option to download it. You're going to want to download it. It's a pretty big application, so it might take some time. Once you're done with that, we're going to go navigate down here, and we're going to go ahead here and launch our Xcode application here. So, like I said before, we're going to be making a guessing game, a simple guessing game, and the programming language we're going to be using here is going to be C++. So, what we're going to want to do once we launch Xcode is we're going to want to create a new Xcode project. You can see it shows some of your previous projects on the side panel there. But let's create a new Xcode project. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over here. If it's not toggled on Mac OS already, you're going to want to hit Mac OS. And you're going to want to select the command line tool option. Next, it's going to want you to put in a product name. So I suppose you can make up whatever you want. I'm just going to call this simple guessing game here. All right. Of course, you can name it something cooler if you want it to. Gives you an option to add a team account here. It looks like organization identifier. If you have a website, that's fantastic. They usually want you to put the actual end of the URL here backwards, if you will. I don't have one right now, so you can just make up whatever you want. And of course, our language, it's probably going to be set to Swift, honestly. So what you're going to want to do is click this little arrow icon, navigate down here to C++, and then you're good to go. So we're going to hit next. And then, of course, I'm just going to save it to my desktop. You can save it wherever you'd like. We're going to hit this create button down here. And voila. So let's get to the coding section here. So you're going to see simple guessing game, or whatever you named it, really. But where you see here C main, this right here is what you're going to want to select. All right. So right here you can see basically the basic architecture for the actual coding here. It already has a basic hello world program here that you can actually run if you'd like. In fact, if you come up here and you hit this play button, and it should be building it here. Yep, you can see right down here, hello world, right there. Alrighty. So, at any rate, we didn't come here to do that. We came here to actually code our own little simple guessing game. And basically what this game does is it allows you to guess any number between 1 to 10, and you have 3 chances to get it right, otherwise you lose. But if you guess it in the set amount of steps that you get, of course you win. So what I'm going to do here is let's get this simplified a little bit here. Let's just simplify the structure. All right. And let's get rid of all of this. So now we can really start bare bones, essentially. So right now we've got this include ISO stream up here. Basically, the includes allow you to insert contents of a file into the file you're working on, essentially. And to put it simply, you basically add functionality to your program. But what we're going to need to add for this particular program is we're going to come over here and we're going to include, we're going to go ahead and include, you're going to open it up, and we're going to include cstdlib and close it up. There we go. The error message went away. All right. Now once we do that, we're going to want to include so what we're going to need to do here is we're going to set up our basic structure here. So we're going to need to create something that will allow us to have random numbers essentially. All right. So we've included the cstd lib there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of that and we're going to type in srand. All right. And we're going to come over here and we're going to, there we go. And we're going to come over here and we're going to, there we go. We're going to put time 0 in there. And of course we have to, in C++, in order to close it off, we have to include a semicolon, of course. So let's do that, or else it's going to give us that error message there. And that should allow it. Oh, there we go. I forgot to put a parentheses right there. And it's still giving me an error message. So we can see here that we're getting an error here, and that is because I forgot to add yet another parentheses mark. In fact, there we go. In fact, I might as well come over here and include yet another item of consideration here. This one's going to be C time. There we go. All right. So basically what this srand function is going to do, or this srand item here is going to do, is we're actually going to have a variable. We're gonna have a variable that actually randomizes the number. However, computers do what's called pseudo-randomization, so it's not truly random. And so because of that, the computer picks a seed and it continues to run through numbers on that seed. And at first the numbers seem random, but then you're going to see as you run the program, it's going to be the same exact sequence of numbers every time. So eventually you would learn how to win every time. This srand basically allows the program to generate a different seed every time you run the program. So it gives you that illusion of it being random, because if the game's not random, then it becomes a bit predictable. And if the game's too predictable, then it's not really all that fun now anymore, is it? All right, so next, let us create a variable. Now, a variable is basically something that allows us to store a bit of code that we can use later on in our program. So we're going to be storing a number, or you may have heard this in math class, an integer. So to do that in C++, what we'll do is we'll type in int for integer, right? And I'm going to make an integer for the secret number. And so I'm just going to call it secret number. And I want that U capitalized there, so we'll fix that. Perfect. And it's going to equal, this is going to equal rand, right? Actually, toggle that. There we go, rand. And we're going to do mod 10. Let me kind of jump out of these parentheses real quick. +1. And of course, you have to end it with the semicolon. The semicolon basically is like a period here in C++. Now, I've got this mod sign here, which basically allows you to produce the remainder of the integer division, basically. of course, I have this set to 10 because we only wanted to scroll from numbers. Basically, we wanted to go from 1 to 10 essentially. Um, yeah, we want to limit that the number scope basically to only have 10 different digits essentially. Now, obviously, roughly, but if you wanted to increase that amount, you could set it to 100 if you wanted to. But we're not going to do that here because we want to keep it relatively simple. It'd be kind of hard to guess with that that much variability there. But anyway, but if you wanted to do it that way, you could do it. You could set it lower, however you'd like it. But at any rate, we're going to make another integer here that will store the guess, the number that you guess here. Call that guess. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to make a guess count, right? Which is going to equal 0, right? So this is going to be, obviously this is the number you're going to guess you put in, and this is going to be the counter, right? So obviously you want the count of guesses to start at 0, right? Because you haven't put in a guess yet when you start the game, right? So we're going to set that to 0, right? But in order to give this game a bit of a stake, so to speak, give it some credence, we've got to set some limits here. So the guess limit, I think 3 is kind of a classic kind of limit typically in a lot of games. So we're going to set it to 3. Of course, again, this is something that you can customize. You can set it to however many that you want, whether you want more or less. That's up to you. Alrighty. And then we have to make an integer that basically helps us to know, the program to know, how many remaining guesses you actually have. So remaining, and we're going to go guesses here. And that's going to be equal to 3. Right? There we go. All right, remaining guesses equals to 3. Now we're going to introduce ourselves to another integer type here, or rather another variable type, pardon me. It's going to be called bool, and this is short for Boolean. And what does that even mean? Basically, it's just a true or false statement. So it can either be true or false. This one, we're going to call this one out of guesses. And obviously this will render at 3. So if you guessed your 3 guesses, you didn't get any of them right, this Boolean is by default set to false, but if you are out of guesses, this will become true, and if it's true, then hey, you lost the game, but that's okay. You can try again. In fact, let's kind of put that in right now. So we're gonna be making a variable called a string. Now, the string variables are basically text, to put it simply. And so to do that in C++, you just type in std : string, right? I want to call this one try again. All right. Try again. 1 equals, and then you put you're gonna put whatever the text you want to use, you're gonna put it in these double quotation marks. So I'm going to say you have, and I'm going to put a blank space. I'm going to do that on purpose so that way when the program actually runs, it leaves a little bit of white space there. And then, of course, we close it out with a semicolon. Now, of course, you could name this whatever you want, but for our purposes, I'm just going to leave it as is. And here's something else that I should bring up. Um, you could theoretically come over here and type using namespace, right? And you could say std, right? And then you could come down here and you could should be able to just type in string, and then I will call this one try again 2 equals guesses left. We'll do guesses left. All right. There we go. And that works. And see, you can see it worked just fine there. But I don't recommend that you guys actually go ahead and do this. Reason being is this is generally considered bad practice. And as your code becomes more complicated, or maybe even using somebody else's code into your own code, or collaborating as a team, or something along those lines, this could potentially lead to errors in the future. So I'm showing this to you so that way you know there could be C++ code out there that's written using this namespace std, but it's much better practice to just leave that out and to specify it each individual time. Just a little extra effort there, but it goes a long way. So we'll do that, right? All right, fantastic. Well, that should be all the variables we need, right? You have X amount of guesses left. In fact, what I'll do is I'll leave some space here so that way when it renders, there's some white space. All right. So now that we've got all of the main structure laid out before us, what we can do is we can actually start our code. So what we're going to do is we're going to make what is known as a while loop. So we're going to hit while, type in while rather, open it up with the parentheses symbol there. We're going to reference our secret number variable. Now we're going to reference our secret number variable. All right. And if it does not equal, so if it does not equal here, exclamation equal, your guess and you are not out of guesses. And you are not out of guesses. Oop, not that. There we go. And you are not out of guesses. This is what we're going to do. We're going to use our little curly brackets there. Do that. There we go. Now this is the basic structure of a while loop. All right. So basically, a while loop allows you to go through a list of instructions essentially. But you have to be kind of careful with them, because if you don't specify the instructions in the proper way, then this loop can loop code that you put in it around and around and around and around and again, indefinitely, or more realistically until your computer crashes. So you got to be kind of careful with while loops, but that's just the thing. Alrighty. So now let's use an if statement here. So we're going to say is if the guess count, right? If the guess count is less, right, If it's less than your guess limit, right? If it's less than your guess limit, then what we can actually do is we'll come over here and we'll open up another set of curly braces there, curly brackets. Then we're going to say std, right? And we're going to say cout. So basically when we say cout, we want the program to print something, when we run it. So cout. And then we're going to say, this is what we wanted to print out. And it's going to be, please guess a number between 1 and 10. 1 and 10. Okay. And then we're going to do that, have a little white space, and we're going to close that out with a semicolon. All right. Then what we're going to do is now we're going to be wanting input from our user, right? So then we're going to say std, and we're going to say cn, right? And we're going to say cn, we're going to do it this way now. And we're going to want the user to input the actual guess now. We're going to be wanting to get that data from our user, right? Now, here's how it's going to work. As they do that, we're going to say, well, hey, if they make this guess, well, then their guess count needs to go up, right? You can't just have this looping indefinitely, right? So we're going to say guess count plus plus, right? Guess count plus plus. And what that basically does is every time the user guesses, you're going to make the guess count go up by 1, right? That's kind of the object. All right. But of course, we need to include our remaining guesses in here, right? Our remaining guesses. And as the guess count goes up, our remaining guesses goes down, right? We're going to have a little bit of a balancing act there. Of course, we're going to have another cout statement here. So, cout, and we're going to go try again. We're going to go with our first one here. And then we're going to go ahead and we want to append our number of remaining guesses to it, just to let the user know, hey, you've got this many guesses left, right? So remaining guesses, and we're going to go over here, and we're going to do try again 2, right? Semicolon, end that off. Save it. All right. So right now what we've done is now this loop will run. It'll ask the user to please guess a number between 1 and 10. The user inputs their guess. Guess count goes up. The guesses you have left goes down, right? And then, of course, it prints out you have X amount of guesses left, basically. But this is an if statement, but also we can say else. So it's if else. So else, the else part of it comes in this matter, right? So else out of guesses is true, right? So in other words, if they don't get this answer right, If they don't get this answer right, then out of guesses is going to be true, right? It's a Boolean. So here's the thing. We're going to set that equal to true. So by default, remember that's set to false. So we're going to set that equal to true. All right. So now that leaves us with a little bit of a conundrum, if you will. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make another if statement here. And so the thing is this, is if out of guesses, if you're out of guesses, oops, let me get out of that parentheses there. If you're out of guesses, curly braces, then the program is going to print out cout. The following text. The harsh reality is that you lose, right? Kind of unfortunate, but it's a thing, right? All right. So now we've got that, but let's not make it all bad news, of course, because if you didn't lose, then obviously we can say std cout and you win, right? If you didn't lose, then you won. All right, and then of course we've closed it out with this return statement that was kind of part of the basic structure anyway. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and run it and see if it works. All right, so let's go over here, hit the play button, and run this. Alrighty, so unfortunately, our first run did not work out correctly, and I went back and looked at the code, and I actually realized, silly me, I included an integer in a Boolean statement. So, yeah, there we go. I should have set it to false. There we go. And then another thing that I neglected is I have this while loop spanning this whole content, but really we need it to stop right about there. And I can just, this isn't critical, the spacing here just hopefully helps the code look a little cleaner. Save that. Now when I run it, hopefully it should run smoothly. So let us go ahead here and run it and see the result of our labor, shall we? All right, so please guess a number between 1 and 10. All right, let's go with the number 7. Let's go with the number 7. Alrighty. Oops, did not mean to do that. There we go. Alrighty, so I didn't get it right. I have 2 guesses left, so we know the counter is working all right. Let's go with 5. I've got 1 guess left. Am I gonna make it? Let's do 9. Well, right there. You have 0 guesses left. You lose. So, oh well. It is what it is. You know what I might do though? I might actually add a space to that to make it look a little bit more refined while we're at it. All right, let us go ahead and run it again. Let's see if we can win this, because this not only goes for C++, but this goes for anything that you guys code. For anybody who's new to coding, you always want to test your program out under all possible circumstances. So, okay, we know the you lose works. All right, let's try to actually win and see if we can get a win in. If we get a win in, then we've done our job and we've made our game. So let's try it again. Start off with 7 here. Let's do 1, 4. Okay, you have 0 guesses left and you won. Okay, So obviously there we saw that we were able to lose and we're able to win. And as you could tell, um, the numbers appear to be random. But just to make sure, I won with 4. So let's run it again. Let's just make sure that 4 is not always a guaranteed win. Okay, it's not always a guaranteed win. Um, okay, so there we go. There we go. So we just made our first basic program here in C++. We made a little basic, you know, guessing game here. And of course, C++, if for those of you who don't know, is used heavily in the gaming industry. So this is obviously capable of something that's incredibly more advanced than what we're doing here. But you got to start somewhere, right? Alrighty, so if you like what you saw here, please don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell notification icon so that you can be one of the first to know when I post a new video. Additionally, please do not forget to give this video a like and to leave a comment down below about what Xcode C++ tutorials you would like to see in the future. Alrighty guys, this has been DRH Elucidations signing off.